So let's talk about what happened in Minneapolis. We're looking at a situation where one single traffic stop just exploded into this massive national crisis. It was all fueled by a video that went viral and, honestly, a country that was already on edge. We're going to break down exactly how this all went down.
Think about that for a second. That's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you. Those were Renee Good's last words. I mean, they're so calm, so disarming, and she's saying them to the very man who moments later would kill her.
And yeah, just moments after she said that, the calm was absolutely shattered. 3 gunshots. Renee Good was dead. It's this one single tragic event that became the flashpoint.
Okay, so here's where it gets even crazier. The whole thing, the entire incident, was recorded. And not by a bystander, but by the shooter himself. He was an ICE agent, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. So in his own video, you see him walk up to Renee Good's car. She's actually smiling at him. You can hear her wife, Becca, in the background, saying something kind of defiant about their license plates. Then, things just escalate, fast. As their car starts to drive away, the agent opens fire. 3 shots. And after killing her, you hear him say, "Fucking bitch."
So you'd think that video would be a problem, right? Well, the administration's response was immediate and really strong. They're the ones who released the video, and they claimed it was clear proof, that the agent was acting in self-defense. Vice President J.D. Vance got involved too, calling the agent an innocent law enforcement officer.
But the public saw something totally different. The video, of course, went viral, and the outrage was just instant. The gap between what the government was saying and what people were seeing with their own 2 eyes was huge. It was so jarring that people like Eric Columbus were asking the question that was on pretty much everyone's mind. Which brings us to a huge question, right? How could the administration possibly release a video that looks so bad and think it would actually clear their agent? Well, there's a theory that tries to explain this huge disconnect. And believe it or not, this isn't the first time we've seen this kind of thing happen. You probably remember the murder of Ahmaud Arbery. His killers did the exact same thing. They released a video because they thought it would show they were acting in self-defense. But what happened? It caused this massive national outrage, and it's what led to them being convicted. The parallels here are pretty striking. And this is what brings us to this core idea, this theory. It's called the authoritarian bubble. So, what is that? It's basically the idea that someone can get so trapped inside their own worldview, their own echo chamber, that they completely lose the ability to see how normal people, how the general public, would react to their actions. So in their mind, they see justified force. But everyone else? They see a cold-blooded kill.
And here's the thing. That bubble wasn't just around this one agent. It looks like it might have surrounded the entire agency he worked for. See, this shooting in Minneapolis didn't just happen out of nowhere. It's actually part of a much bigger story about how ICE has been changing and expanding.
First, let's talk about money. ICE's budget for enforcement and deportation recently tripled. It shot up to a staggering $30 billion. I mean, that is a huge investment in growing their power and their reach.
And what do you do with all that money? Well, for one, you go on a massive hiring spree. ICE is now trying to bring on more than 10,000 new officers. That's a dramatic increase in the size of their force.
But what's really interesting here is who they're trying to hire. They've got this $100 million campaign they're calling a wartime recruitment effort, and it's targeting very specific groups: military enthusiasts, people at gun shows, listeners of right-wing radio. The goal seems pretty clear, right? They're looking for recruits who already fit a certain ideological profile.
And while this is all happening, the leadership at ICE is getting a major shakeup. A lot of the top jobs are being filled by officers coming over from the U.S. Border Patrol, which, is an agency that has a reputation for pretty aggressive tactics. The message it sends is pretty clear. ICE is being rebuilt from the very top.
So that brings us back to the big question. Why Minnesota? How did this one state become the center of this whole crisis? Well, it seems Minnesota had become a major political flashpoint, and it was directly in the administration's sights.
Let's just walk through the timeline, because it shows how incredibly fast all of this happened. It starts in late December with this debunked video about Somali daycares in Minnesota that goes viral. Just a few days later, President Trump points to that video as his reason for cutting the state's anti-poverty funds. Then, get this, on the very same day that a judge steps in and blocks that funding cut, 2 things happen. The administration turns around and withholds $129 billion from Minnesota, And Renee Good is shot and killed by an ICE agent. It's just an incredibly fast-paced and politically charged series of events.
And you can really feel the political temperature from this quote by President Trump, which he said on the same day as the shooting. He calls Minnesota a corrupt state, he falsely claims he won it 3 times, and throws out these baseless accusations about them buying votes. This is the kind of rhetoric that was setting the stage for the federal government to come in so aggressively.
And that response was aggressive. We're talking more than 2,000 federal agents sent to Minnesota. Just to give you some perspective on that number, that is over 3 times the size of the entire Minneapolis Police Department.
So as you can imagine, the shooting of Renee Good and the way the administration handled it had a huge, immediate effect on how the public viewed ICE.
And when I say huge, I mean seismic. Take a look at this. Before the shooting, ICE's net approval rating was actually positive at +16. Afterwards, it plummeted to -14. That's a 30-point collapse in public support. Just a stunning, stunning turnaround.
And it wasn't just that overall support dropped. The number of people who were actively against the agency surged. You can see here the percentage of Americans who had a strongly unfavorable opinion of ICE more than doubled. It went from 19% all the way up to 40%. That shows there's this growing and really angry opposition building up across the country.
So all of this leaves us with a really critical question, doesn't it? On one hand, you have an agency that's getting more money, more power, and is actively recruiting people who share a certain way of thinking. But on the other hand, its public support has just cratered. So what happens when an agency's power grows at the exact same time its public legitimacy completely falls apart? That really is the central question at the very heart of the Minnesota crisis.